Hello and welcome back to the Student StarCraft AI Tournament Weekly broadcast. This is Nightcat and I will be your host for today. We're going to be continuing with the recommended games in the replay channel of the SSCAIT Discord, which the link for joining will be down in the description below. Our first game sounds like a very exciting game. We have a human versus AI game. So here at the top left, I do apologize if I am butchering the pronunciation of your name. I'm guessing that the IS is like a clan or team tag, and so I will be calling you SPL. I'm just actually, you know what? Yeah, I'm just gonna go with SPL. 'Cause I don't know if SPLCH should have a pronunciation or not. So again, I apologize to the human player here. So it looks like we are getting similar builds. Just commenting on the thing here, though, we are seeing a couple more drones coming out. For the anonymous AI, this is played using Snail, which if you are playing a ladder game, it anonymizes the AI that you're up against. So that way, if you have practiced against a particular AI and you know some tricks and or weaknesses of that AI, you do not necessarily know you're playing against it when you're doing a ranked game, and so you cannot abuse that. But based on some of the comments around this particular recommendation, I do believe that the anonymous AI is monster. So with that in mind here, we do have the Zergling Scout almost finding the opponent, and then going to go ahead and fall back. These Zerglings could easily clean up those too, but it's almost impossible to know exactly how far back. And now we do have a very, very beautiful concave here, which I have been seeing be shown off on the Discord a bit by a couple of different authors, all tackling the same sort of problem of how to get these sort of nice, beautiful concaves. And what I really like about this is how all of the Zerglings are even facing the same way, so that you're not going to lose time with the Zerglings turning should an engagement start. But what is the human player doing behind this? We do have our lair. Both players are getting their spires. We just had an overlord hatch here, so we do have the human player here, SPL. Well, they have okay, and just a little bit off on the timing there, but pretty darn good though, being able to get their 3 mutalisks at the same time. In the anonymous AI here, who I believe is monster, getting their mutalisks just a little bit sooner. So we're gonna have some mutalisk clashing here in the middle, and the mutalisk's gonna go ahead back off for a second here, and now we do have very nice micro happening. Very good targeting by the AI there to sort of cut into the numbers, because the human player SPL was going to be up just a little bit in count. And I'm going to go ahead and clean up that overlord that is hanging out in the base, which might be one of the reasons that we've seen the extra overlord production from the human player. SPL, anticipating that overlord was going to be lost after the mutalisks had popped. And so now we do have, as we can see, a concave here from SPL as well, but it's not as pretty as the one that monster have. And that's not to say that that's a bad concave for a human player. It's just that when you can't issue an order to every single unit on every single frame, you make do with what you can do as a human. So now we do have SPL getting the evolution chamber, so we should be seeing a spore colony coming up soon. Well, first the creep colony, which you then turn into a spore colony. And trying to get it placed there. Okay, there we go. Pretty good placement. I like this. It protects the gas. It protects the upper minerals. Sure, the lower minerals are a bit exposed, but you can't really get coverage of everything with a single spore colony. Now we do have the mutalisks coming back in here for monster, or the AI. No, I'm just going to assume that it's monster based on what I've seen, so that's what I'm going to call the AI in this matchup. Human player SPL is deciding, you know what, you're going to try and harass me, but I've got my spore colony up, and I think that protects me enough. I'm going to come down here and see what you've got going on. Now, there is a spore colony for monster, going ahead and diving and sacrificing the mutalisks here, because if it could deal enough economic damage, if it could take out enough of these drones, that is huge hit for monster there. Or on monster, rather. I'm now going to go ahead and retreat sometimes, and that's something that AI can have trouble understanding. And now we do see monster doing a similar play here. Actually, as I was just saying, that's hard for AI to decide to do those type of moves. It just goes ahead and makes me eat my own words and just does it. But in general, for AI, it can be really hard to make that determination of, you know what, I can sacrifice a few units to score more worker kills, and that will put me in an advantage. Now, we do have the Zerglings of Monster running in here, seeing what they could do. There's not a lot of Zerglings, but there are plenty of Mutalisks still in the base, so they're going to be able to clean up the Zerglings pretty easily. In terms of upgrades, what do we have? We have both of them at 1-1, or sorry, actually just at 1 Carapace. That's Zergling speed is the other one there. So Monster just kind of hanging back. Don't see any expansion from either of the players, but really neither of the players can, I think, afford to get an expansion at this point. We do have Monster up on 2 hatcheries, and the SPL is going up to a 2nd hatchery now. And so we are getting another engagement here, potentially diving into the Sunken Spot, where the Mutalisks are trying to find a spot where only the one spore colony, rather, is hitting. The Mutalisks was able to find a spot and score a few worker kills, but I don't know if it was really worth it. At this point, Monster is still up in workers at 13. And we're getting pure Mutalisk production from SPL. So SPL doing a little bit of damage there, but I don't know if it was really enough there. It did catch Monster a little off guard where the Mutalisks had left the main, but the Mutalisks were able to come back, and some new ones were able to hatch in time to sort of force that pressure back. And at this point, I'm wondering if SPL is kind of wondering, well, what do I do? Because I'm kind of wondering what SPL can do in this situation. You really need to try and get yourself some space to... Oh, and sniping of the gas drones. Gonna need to move some over. Does have enough for like another round of... There we go. We're repopulating that. We did get the 3 Mutalisks that we could afford here. Trying to engage. Neither player has really tried to get any Scourges out. And now we do have the Zerglings coming in here, forcing the Mutalisks to have to come back. There are no Zerglings out on the field. Or actually, now there are 3. I think they may have just hatched. So really, a lot of pressure from Monster with these Zerglings and these Mutalisks. And I like when it's coordinating it. Right now, the Zerglings are a bit alone. The Mutalisks running all the way back here. Not entirely sure why they're running back. We do have a 3rd hatchery coming out. So really, both players kind of just stuck in this one base position here. But I think it's playing out for the better. And now the Zerglings coming in while... The Mutalisks were out for SPL. SPL trying to get to that main to put some pressure on Monster, but just not quite able to. Having to do a round of drones here to sort of replace the workers that's lost it. It's just slowly falling more and more behind. Monster able to get, or rather to start its natural now. Was feeling a bit comfortable to come out, but now running into, I believe, superior Mutalisk numbers. Yep, Monster is at 20 because Monster's been at a higher worker count for longer, so it's able to afford these and able to snipe the spore colonies down quickly, the damaged ones, and now just 3 volleys from the 20 or so Mutalisks that were there, able to just quickly wipe out their spore colonies. And now with that is just going to be the game for Monster. Very well played. And now the Scourges come out just a little too late, I think. But really, I don't know if SPL really could have afforded those Scourges earlier. They are pretty expensive gas-wise. If I'm remembering the price right, they're not as expensive as Mutalisks, but they're one-time use. So, once they're gone, and if they didn't even hit anything, then you've sort of just thrown away that gas. So, very well played game from both of these. And I would agree with the comments in the replay channel. A very human-feeling game from the AI. Didn't see it. I mean, now obviously its APM is through the roof. And it's able to group Mutalisks in larger numbers in a cloud, like in this final battle here we saw, where it was attacking with like 20 or so Mutalisks. But overall, just, in terms of strategy and approach, just very human-like game. Great game from both players. Let's hop into the second game today. For our second recommended game of today, we have Crazio spawning as the teal Terran up at the top right of Python, going up against Brian Weber, the orange Zerg down here at the bottom left. And this game, the comment around it is good macro. So I love me a good macro game, especially when it's AI that has crazy macro capabilities. Is the best way I can think to put it right now. So excited to see this game and how it will play out. We do have barracks first from Crazio. It looks like Crazio is going for a wall here. And maybe we're seeing some sort of 12 hatch or something like that from... Oh, no, okay, we're getting a, yeah, 12 hatch. It looks like we should be about 12 supply. Oh, at 11, okay. So an 11 hatchery at the expansion, and then quickly catching up to 13 supply there. We've got our wall here by Crazio. Going ahead and tossing a bunker behind it as well, so it looks like we're kind of doing like a heavy one base opener here. Going ahead and getting the gas, so we will probably see the mech transition shortly. And it looks like we're getting a third, huh? We're doing a 3 base opener here from Brian Weber. And then I imagine this drone is not going to go and get a 4th expansion. It's most likely a scout drone, though it's going to the same base that this Overlord has already scouted, so perhaps it's getting a 4th base. Alright, we are going super greedy, but it might pay off here. We are getting a factory and an academy, but we might struggle if Crazio pumps out even 1 vulture here. You could definitely harass these additional bases with that vulture. We do have the vulture coming down now, and now we are also getting our armory already. Probably in anticipation of pumping out some Goliaths, I would imagine. We're getting our engineering bay for turrets. So Crazio playing very safe here. I don't believe that Crazio has scouted. So this seems like it's just some very safe play, and now we do have the vultures going out on the map. We don't have mines yet, so we're not able to do that. We are getting vulture speed, though. So the vultures check this upper left corner, and we did have a scan go off somewhere, so I'm sure Crazy knows that something's going on. Looks like the Marines interested in these Zerglings, wanting to kind of maybe get them out of the ramp, but at the same time not really being a high enough number to do that, so kind of popping in and out of that bunker there, and then that SCV going to quickly abandon the construction of that command center. We do have a tank out though, so Crazio, should be able to get this base up and running pretty quickly. Although a vulture did get picked off here, I think in this corner here where there was some leftover remains of a Zergling rotting away, so losing 1 vulture. This other vulture though is still doing some work, but I think the Zergling numbers are enough to be able to sort of catch that off guard. And I think really not being able to punish Brian Weber for the quick 4 bases here off of the 1 factory vulture, especially when we sort of stopped producing the vultures and teched up. Not that that's necessarily a bad decision, just that we were not able, or Crazio rather, was not able to punish Brian Weber for that type of opening. But now the Zergling numbers looking a little bit thinner than before, but slowly being able to get up. But now the vultures have speed. They're avoiding those little corner death traps like they got caught in before. So high kill counts probably on these vultures as they're able to just handle the flood of Zerglings. But behind this, we're still teching. So it's not like we're throwing all of our money away into these Zerglings, keeping these back. We do have a sunken colony at the ramp. There's still, I think, some spot here, like the vultures could probably scoot, I could not decide on the right word there, into this spot here. We do have a sunken here though, but again, there's probably some room where you could put some pressure, but you would be sacrificing the vultures at the point, as they really would not be able to get away quickly. So now we do have some Zerglings coming up here to the front, but the Terran front more than able to handle this. An Overlord may be getting caught out of position, but Brian Weber could quickly replace that, and does have an Overlord under construction here. This base really seems to be where Crazio could do some pressure with its vultures if it wanted to, but trying to instead... Oh, now we do have mines. Getting a few stray Zerglings, probably for the better for Brian Weber to take this out with like a single unit, and then losing it to an army. Now we do have the mutalisks starting to come out. A lot of production from Brian Weber, having those 4 bases with Crazio just at the 2. But really, I think we're starting to kind of come up on some more equal footing here. The longer this game goes on, and the more army that Brian Weber essentially throws away to Crazio here the more that Crazio is able to catch up. And at this point, it's looking a bit more like a, like Brian Weber had gone with a standard opener and just sort of taken those expansions at normal times. As Crazio is now moving to go ahead and take his third over here in the top left. Brian Weber chasing the vultures with their mutalisks. I like the spread there that was happening to avoid that splash damage from the Valkyrie and slowly picking off the Valkyrie and diving in on it with the Scourge. Very nice to see there by Brian Weber. And I was just trying to find an opening. If the mutalisk count was high enough, I feel like these turrets are pretty spread and would be susceptible to being sniped by the mutalisks, but the mutalisks just kind of continuing to engage even when low life and not really letting their numbers build up. Brian Weber also sitting on these 4 bases for a pretty long time and not continuing to press its advantage into an expand. But really, if it did invest those resources into the up, and no sooner do I speak of that than it goes go ahead and start to expand. But I was just going to say though that I think earlier, if it was trying to also expand again, that may have been stretching itself a little bit too thin. And here we do have a contingent of Goliath and Vulture kind of pushing out into the middle of the map here. Able to handle what is there currently, but also kind of getting spread out by the way that Brian Weber is spreading out its units. So perhaps not being quite as effective as they could if they were all together. And sort of pulling back here, so the majority of the units have pulled back. There was just a Vulture and a couple of Goliaths, but now we do have these 3 Goliaths here. And it looks like we're going to go ahead and try and take another base. We do have a drone that wants to expand here, but being blocked by a mine. Crazy, we're not really doing anything about that drone at the moment. Content to just let it sit, and that actually might be a problem for Brian Weber. If Brian Weber's not going to clear that mine, you could just bring an Overlord over and then have the drone clear it. Brian Weber might be stuck on the 5 bases here, especially Crazio. Now taking this base is taking essentially the last base outside of the island bases that Brian Weber could try to claim. And with that, Crazio is looking very much at the advantage here now. Whereas Brian Weber had that early advantage with all the bases that it was able to take and not be punished for, Crazio now just rolling in with the strong mech army. Not sure if Brian Weber is really going to be able to produce anything, especially I don't think we have a hive tech left. Or we do have a hive, but we're still just getting lair tech units. And so I don't see, we do have an Ultralisk cavern, but we also don't really have the income. And now with this base under pressure, we really needed that 5th and or 6th base fully established, I think, before we would start seeing some more of that hive tech. Defilers maybe would have been a better choice over Ultralisks as well for that Dark Swarm ability, but that's something we don't really see a whole lot of bots utilizing. It's tough to take advantage of, to know, to get your units under the Dark Swarm. I mean, we saw that 2 weeks ago when I was casting. That was, I believe, Steam Hammer. I forget who its opponent was, but they did the Cannon Contain, and Steam Hammer had a lot of trouble because it just kept running units through it, and even once it had Dark Swarm, it had a bit of trouble understanding that I need to get my units under the Dark Swarm and that they'll be fine to clear the cannons. So it's not an easy concept to add to your AI. And here, these 2 bases have now been cleaned up by Crazio. And it's looking like this is more and more just in the cleanup phase, so I'm going to go ahead and speed it up as Crazio goes ahead and takes over most of the map, still leaving this drone here, which is kind of amusing to me. But yeah, with that, Crazio is going to go ahead and take the win. Nice base layout here. 3, how many 4, 5. We're getting a 6th one here, 7. Or actually, we're getting a 7th one. That means pretty good factory count here. Pretty good tank count at 36, perhaps a little bit overkill in that regard, but I think with that we'll go ahead and call the game here for Crazio. There's only 1 base left for Brian Weber. Very fun game. Let's get into our 3rd game for today. And for our 3rd game today, we have here a game that was recommended not from one of the running AI ladders, but it was a locally run game by one of the authors, and they wanted to show off one of their build orders against a particular AI here, Iron. So we have McRae spawning as the teal Zerg over on the left of Heartbreak Ridge, going up against Iron, spawning as the white Terran. And so the build that we're looking to see here is the 2-hatch. Now I forget if it was Muta or Lurker. I think it was 2-hatch Muta against Ironbot here. So Ironbot going ahead and starting its wall as Iron usually does. I think it's been a while since we've seen an Iron game as well. Ironbot is a very strong bot, but has kind of been overshadowed by newer, well, not even necessarily newer AIs, but also, but I mean some of that, especially in with the Protoss bots. A lot of the newer Protoss bots that we've had that have been very strong on the scene, and then Monster, very strong new Zerg, but also just in general, bots that have been around as well have been receiving updates, and I believe that Ironbot has not received any updates in quite a few years. So still strong opponent to play against, though, and I think may have been one of the Terran bots, or one of the first Terran bots with like crazy vulture micro. I remember when I first came onto the scene that you know, I think at that point, like pretty much most of the top Terran bots had good vulture micro at the time, but really Ironbot was kind of like the one that was mentioned, like you should model after that type of situation when I came on the scene, or look into how or what Iron is doing with their vultures for what you should do with yours. And now, well, while I've been talking about that, behind this we do have, you know, the 2 hatcheries here. My brain was trying to think of the right word to use. We do have, again, this early sunken. There's going to be no pressure from Iron. Well, actually, no, maybe not too early, because now we do have the vulture here. So I think I spoke a little bit too soon there. Pretty well timed sunken then, actually. And I like how these Zerglings are hanging back at this choke. And also too, I should note that you can tell this is a locally run game as well, because the AI's name here is McRave, and McRave is more known as a Protoss AI. There are versions of oh, and an attempt at a run by, very nice there. The Zerglings got distracted by the vulture that went to the left, but then they pulled back and trapped the vulture that tried to get through the gap. So, wow, I was not expecting to see that. That was pretty crazy. We do have the mutalisks underway, and they have now hatched, and they are doing something that a lot of AI also struggle with. They are ignoring the vultures. So a lot of the times an AI will pop out its mutalisks, and they're hitting before any of the turrets are up as well. So this is just going to be a disaster for Iron. I can see what the author of McRave was talking about in their recommendation there. But I think one of the things that I think in even games that I've cast, maybe with McRave Z, maybe not specifically McRave Z, but other AIs that have good mutalisk control, is that they will sometimes just get distracted by the units that are outside their main and chasing those units down, instead of doing what they need to do and go straight for the main, because at that point they give the fact that they have the mutalisks away, and their opponent is able to, and even though in the end the turrets are able to get up and kind of cut these, so just to I know I'm jumping topics a lot, there's a lot going on here, cut the mutalisk count down a little bit, the worker count is just devastated for Iron at 4 workers right now. And now we're down to just the 2 here, one of which is in the main, and the other one's coming up here to repair a turret that's defending essentially minerals that will probably never mean anything for Iron. But like I was saying, like, you know, you give away that you have these mutalisks by attacking the units that are sitting outside of your natural that can't do anything to you, and then you start chasing these vultures everywhere, and you give your opponent time to respond and get those turrets up before you finally make it to the main. So it was really cool to see the mutalisks prioritize going to the main and ignoring those vultures, and it was really cute and cool to see the Zerglings here catch that and block that run by that Iron is known for. So I think we'll call this game here, especially because it was more just to show off, I think, the 2-hatch mutalisk build, and it hit, and it did hit. Iron's out of workers and out of money. So this game is very soundly decided for McRave. Very cool game to watch. Let's go ahead and hop into our next game for today. So with that, we are actually finally caught up with all of the recommended games in the SSCAIT Discord. So for this next game, I've gone ahead and gone to the Snail ladder and just pulled a random game off of the replay list there. This is a ranked game. I do know who the AI is, but I will leave that up to you to figure, or to see if you can figure it out, and I'll let you know at the end of the game who the AI is, and hopefully I don't accidentally say the name while casting here. The player is going by the screen name Snail here. So the human player is anonymous here. So I'll probably just refer to them as Snail through this cast. Now this is on match point, which is a map that I don't think I've really casted all that much, and I've seen games played on it. So I'm kind of familiar with the map and how it works and everything. It's got some similarities to Benzene in terms of like layout, but obviously it's a very different map from Benzene. There are a lot less bases to take on it as well, I believe, in comparison. So we've got, it looks like, and the drone able to take out the probe. Very nice there. And now we're getting, a very forward hatchery here, like a proxy hatchery up against the, what looks like a forge fast expansion here, and really probably should, if would just pop some cannons out, but that might be just out of vision range. It's hard to say, but could probably still handle it with a few, oops, and I just realized I did not have the production tab up, so I apologize for that. Let me go ahead and get that into position here. And so, we do have this proxy hatch coming down here. I know we do have a zealot coming down now, but now we're getting creep colony, so we could be in some trouble here. This cannon is very far back, probably more to defend against. Now we do have the zealot, and we are going to go ahead and engage with what is morphing into a sunken, but now we have the zerglings coming up from the main. We do also have so we have got two hatcheries behind this, plus the third, so it's essentially a third hatch opening, but we can use these sunkens very aggressively. Having to cancel the cannon there, not going to really, I think, be able to get a cannon down that can impact these sunken. Going ahead and targeting down the pylon here. Going to do some heavy damage to it before this cannon can even finish it. Actually, probably take it out. The cannon's going to be unpowered. I will still finish more warping in, but not going to be able to do anything. And I think this game is going to go probably for Snail, but behind this we do have the Stargate out. I don't think we have any Corsair yet. Now we are getting our Citadel of Adun. We do have a Overlord here, but this base, it's able to mine. Now we could potentially start pushing a bit forward with the colonies here. We are going for heavy colony building, it looks like. And now we've got to run in there to go ahead and take out that cannon. So yeah, now we're able to threaten the nexus here of the AI. See, I'm wondering. Yeah, it seems like if it had switched, instead of getting its gateway and everything first, if it had got cannons and placed them in such a way that it could threaten this hatchery, it could have prevented this situation from happening. But unfortunately, it still just went with its normal thing, and then Snail having to take out its own sunken there in order to just be able to run its units in if it wants to. And now we do have a Corsair out, which is going to go ahead. There's no anti-air, and now we've got the Zealots running in, but I think there's just too much here for the Zealots to be able to clear. Throwing away the Zealots. And now we do have a Spore Colony up, so going to go ahead and be able to save these Overlords. Still not quite able to pressure this Nexus, though, so it's a shame that the AI threw those Zealots away into that fight, because really it could have had a stronger force had it not done so. But I guess it felt like, okay, I've got my Corsair, I'm hitting these Overlords, let me go ahead and get out there. We are getting some Dark Templar now, but really with the Overlords there, and now with the Spore Colonies, I don't think the Dark Templar are going to be able to do much, especially when your army count is so low. We only have 2 Zealots out on the field in terms of ground units, and now we're getting 4 Dark Templar, but we are getting a robotics facility, so perhaps we will see some type of Dark Templar drop, which could potentially benefit the AI, but but Snail is, you know, expanded twice behind this, free to do pretty much what it wants, or what they want in terms of this here. And now the Dark Templar just kind of doing the same kind of dance that these Corsairs are doing, but it's getting them caught in range of the Sunkens and just sort of throwing them away here. And now we've got a lot of production coming out from Snail, a lot of more hatcheries being thrown down. And here we can see one of the limitations of this, or at least of this AI, and I think of AI sort of in general, is they don't deal with these types of contains very well, especially when it's not something that they would necessarily expect to have a hatchery placed right outside of their natural choke. And so we did have the Zealots going there to try and run in, and then going ahead and having to back out. Yeah, and now we've got like kind of the dance, and now we've just got probes being perpetually thrown into the Sunkens there by the AI. Not exactly sure what that's about. Maybe trying to get an expansion, and again, just not recognizing the contain that is happening to it. And now we've got a massive Hydralisks being hatched by Snail. We do have a Reaver out, which could maybe do something. Gonna get a few shots off, but I think at this point the AI is just way too far behind. We do have a Storm there catching some of the Zerglings, but yeah, Snail is just going to be able to build as many Hydralisks as it wants before it's able to just come in here and overwhelm. The AI is doing a good job of luring some of these units out. Might be able to maybe break this down if it's careful enough with the Reaver. Really, it should just move the Reavers forward and not the other units. There's no need to throw them away when the Reavers can clear this out safely. But Snail not worried at all about this, and actually it looks like going for a drop with the Hydralisks instead of just smacking down the front door. We're just going to go ahead and drop it. Nice storms by the AI in response, but it's just not enough there to be able to clear it out. And even though it was finally able to clear that front, just throwing too many units away in the effort to do so. So well played by Snail in this case, with that containing just all those Hydralisks being morphed there. The production queue jumps up, and we'll go ahead and get into another game here. And if wondering if any of you have guessed it, the AI from the last game was Banana Brain. So now we have another Snail game here, human versus AI. We've got Snail spawning as the blue Protoss up at the top left of Andromeda, going up against our anonymous AI, spawning as the purple Terran down at the bottom left. So Andromeda, 4-player map. We've seen games on this. This is regularly both on Basil and on the SSCAIT ladder. And so let's see what our human player Snail is going to do. Looks like we're going to go ahead and throw down our in-base pylon, and then go ahead and scout. Oh no, okay, we're going to go ahead and throw our Nexus down as well. So I don't believe we've sent out a scout yet. Just curious what we're probably going to get, a gateway here. Again, I don't have the production tab up from the start, apologies. But yeah, I figured that would probably be a gateway and not a forge given where the pylon was. Now we're going to go ahead and get our assimilator. And I believe, our Snail player here is scouting at this point. Going to go ahead and scout in the wrong direction. I wonder if they will do like a cross scout after that. Nope, they're going to go down on the bottom right, so they're going to discover the AI last. Yeah, I was going to go ahead and see what's going on with Snail here. Sees the expansion, sees the Zealot pop out, and then there's no point to chase with the Zealot, so we're going to go ahead and just park them up here. Now we're going to start our front Sim City, it looks like, as we do throw down a pylon. And it looks like, oh, this might be like a bunker rush or something. And I don't know if Snail actually saw this coming. It doesn't look like it, as there's no real reaction at home. And now we do have the probes get pulled as the SCVs arrive. So now the player is aware that this is happening. Able to pick off some of the Marines here, but the Marines really needed to get this Dragoon down and keep this bunker alive. So very nice micro and play there by Snail, able to hold this off. The AI is going to be forced to transition here, but it is expanding behind this, which I think it can do at this point. It's possible Snail might be able to punish for what the AI just tried to do, failing. But it is going ahead now. The AI getting siege mode and getting tanks, so that window is about to close. But this could get a bit disrupted. There are 2-3 Dragoons here, and the tank being left all alone, going to be able to chase down and take that tank out. Tank really needed some SCV support. So now Snail is going to be able to punish, although siege mode is done. So a siege here could protect the, but no, it's sieging on the low ground. Terrible decision there. This high ground would have protected this base, but now this command center is going to fall to these 4 Dragoons, which really it feels like the AI should have been able to hold this off, but just not quite able to. And with that, Snail is happy to back off. That's more than enough damage than it needed to do. And now they can tech up back at home, increase their gateway count, increase their worker count and their economy. And just sort of, and they've got actually their mineral only, so they've got plenty of resources coming in. And they've really disrupted the AI's plan here. Really though, like, if it had plopped that first tank, say like here, in order to protect this command center, or you know, even over here, and then another tank over here, I think it might have been able to handle that a little bit better. But really, I heard some firing. Oh, they were destroying the power center there, probably just in case if there's any sort of drop from the tanks up here, so that way they can quickly run units over and protect against it. But I think this is sort of the defense that the AI was wanting to set up, but just it got hit a little too soon because its early aggression failed before it could set that up. So now we do have some spider mines being laid down. Yep, clearing out one of the mines that it already laid. So now the AI is able to stabilize a bit here, but it is behind, having lost that base. We do have the Templar Archives down now. Snail doesn't look like they're expanding at the moment. They're content to just sit on 3 bases and sort of just tech up right now. They are floating a bit of resources, so they could easily add in an expansion, or maybe increase their macro capabilities. We do see a lot of pylons coming down, so I suspect they may have been supply blocked for a short bit there. Their army is pretty small right now, but the AI not really able to push out just yet. Did lift the buildings as if it might do a push, saw the Dragoons out there, and then decided otherwise and quickly landed them again. We do have a shuttle here that is picking up some units for a drop, and it looks like it's going to go the long way around. So we'll kind of try and keep an eye on when that shuttle reaches a destination. But really at this point, the Protoss does not want to engage down there. Now we do have a base at the other main here established for Snail. Going ahead and mining that base, getting the assimilator ready to go. And where is that dropship? Up, and it has landed up here. We do have the tank now applying some pressure, but a fresh round of zealots actually pop out of the gateways there just in time to clean that up very quickly. So nice timing on those popping out. And now the AI is looking like maybe I can push out into this, but this is what the Protoss player wants. It wants to get its army nice and maxed, and then just sort of wait for the army to push into it, and then just kind of crush it with superior numbers and tech, and then also just superior macro on the amount of bases that we have. But that can be kind of hard for a human player up against a Terran AI to do, is to keep its macro at levels that it needs to compete with the Terran macro. And now we do have the vultures coming out here. We do have a few that snuck out there, but I don't think there's really anywhere that those vultures can apply pressure. They can sort of mine up the map a bit though in some other bases. So now we do have Snail here clearing out some of the mines that were more forward placed here. Just trying to clear those out a bit. We do have the observer here kind of watching what the AI is doing. Now the AI is moving for a push here, so it's really going to come down to how Snail can handle this push. A nice concave here forming, but the Dragoons are going to melt, but there's heavy Zealot count here. And that heavy Zealot count really able to crush that push, but now we're just left with the Dragoons, so really Snail being forced to pull back here and replace the Zealots. The AI continuing to try and be aggressive here after that push was cleared, and really before the Zealot reinforcements arrive, that may be the play here. But now the Zealot army does arrive, and the Snail deciding that, you know what, my army is not really strong enough, and this is exactly what I was talking about here. The army was strong enough to crush that first wave, but then just the macro of the AI was enough to get a strong army again. But the Vultures kind of get caught out of position here. They're up at the natural. They left the army a bit exposed, and really Snail was able to clear that out. The AI was able to get this third over here on the left established at some point. I kind of missed that. Probably floated the SCV over. And now we do have the AI engaging again here, but I think the army is enough to go ahead and most likely clear this base out. The main is mined out for the AI at this point, but the AI is very Vulture heavy army, not a lot of tanks on the field, and even then not a lot of Vultures either. Really fighting with some low army counts, causing some problems, because once you lose that army then you don't have much behind it to back it up. So really the AI is going to need to try and build its army up again, but at this point Snail should have tech switching two carriers. There are some scans going off. Ooh, nice mine. They're getting 4 of the Dragoons turned into that lovely blue goopy soup building. They're getting taken out by a Zealot. Actually, probably canceled by the AI most likely. And this engineering bay doing a bit of a dance. Now the barracks also doing a bit of a dance with lifting and landing, but Snail in a very, very strong position here as this little guy runs around in the AI base, causing a bit of a problem for a tank trying to get out. Yeah, the AI keeps trying to sort of run in with really small numbers of units, which is probably a bit annoying from the human perspective, but really it's nice because and the AI squeaking out of vision range to get this fourth base established again. And now we're doing a bit of mine clearing here because there's no tanks to really defend these mines at the moment. And we don't want our army to have to move through them once we are ready. Snail is maxed out. I'm not sure where the carriers have moved to. Okay, they are in the middle here. We are seeing some Goliaths come out. I'm not sure if we have the Charon boots. Okay, we do have them. So they do have the increased range here. And now we're definitely showing our hand as Snail here. We are bringing in our carriers. Nice EMP there, hitting the Dragoons, but really might have liked to see that against the carriers. And now the AI just sort of throwing its small numbers away again, trying to save this this fourth base, which really it should give up on. It's funny because there's this whole other side of the base here that the AI could have moved to, but it's dead set on taking this expansion here. Yeah, it looks like it doesn't cancel the building when it's about to be destroyed. Or may have canceled that command center that I was trying to watch the mineral count. Kind of hard to tell. But yeah, I think at this point, Snail is well in control of this game and going to get the win here. So we will speed this up just a bit here to watch this ending. But yeah, very well played by Snail. I love that that Snail set up and just patiently waited, and that's something I wish we could see some Protoss AIs do a bit more, is they get this nice contain on a Terran, but then they keep dancing in and out of range and taking shots and losing some units and seeing, can I push in, can I win, can I beat? When really, as a Protoss player, what you want to do is you want to sit back and wait for that Terran to come out of its protective shell and then strike, and then have the macro behind you to reinforce stronger, so that way when the Terran reinforces, you're still ready to crush that force again, and you don't need to go into the heavily fortified area of the AI. And since this was a ranked game and the AI was anonymous, just to reveal, when you go look at the replays, you can see who was who, and the AI in this case was Adias. So very well played game by both of them. Let's go ahead and hop into at least one more game for this week. Depends on how long it is, we'll see. For our final game this week, we find ourselves with another Snail ranked game. So we have the anonymous AI spawning as the red Terran on the bottom left of Moonglaive, with our human player Snail spawning as the purple Terran over on the right, and seemed to have a little bit of a delay there with their first SCV doing anything. But going ahead and getting their barracks here. And the AI is going for a supply depot first. Now going ahead and getting its barracks. Placed back kind of far from the ramp, but still should be okay in the long run. Unless you're getting some sort of cheese, Terran typically is not going to be having a lot of early engagements with Marines at their ramp. Well, just Marines, I should say. Snail going ahead, popping out one Marine. Gonna go ahead and pop out another, and then we've got a fast expansion coming out here from the AI with a mineral carrying SCV. So depending on what the human is going to do here, could punish this, but it looks like the human stopping here. Yep, gonna go ahead and build a bunker, and I believe this bunker is positioned the way it is in order to protect both this path here and this path here, although it does leave a nice wide open space for a vulture run by if that's something that the opponent wants to do. But a vulture run by really not going to be able to do too much against well, I mean, it can still do damage against SCVs, but SCVs are a little bit more tanky than, say, a probe or a drone. Now we do have a second bunker coming down here, which seems like an interesting choice, along with a second barracks. So I think we're seeing something that is quite a bit not standard from the human here, from Snail. And now we do have the AI is moving out with a set of Marines, so perhaps these bunkers in the end were a wise choice, and we are going ahead and getting our expansion now at the natural by Snail. And now we've got Marines in both bunkers, able to very quickly and easily clean up those Marines, but now we have a steady stream of Marines coming in to join them, but really not going to be able to do much, at least until we either get some type of range. And now it looks like we're getting some heavy bio play here by the AI, so running into the bunkers again, though, throwing away the numbers that it is, slowly building up, and then trying to come in again and again, just cleaning up with those. And now we do have the natural built, but no mining yet. And we do, okay, now we do get the mining and the transfer of the SCVs. Again, moving that, just inching that SCV back a little bit, and then the AI continuing to throw away its Marines, unfortunately, into that sort of two bunker setup there. Looks like more barracks underway. We do have now the academy coming in, so we will probably see some medics come out here. Then another Marine lost to check those bunkers to move. And then these couple Marines here not joining in with the force, but did get a Marine kill there at least, but still just dealing a little bit of damage. It's very easily repaired by Snail there. Snail now teching into factory. Oh, the two barracks seems like it was a bit overkill for Snail. That bunker is taking some damage, not really being repaired by Snail, but now, okay, going ahead and repairing it, now seeing it on fire. We do have medics now joining in, but really these bunkers should be able to handle that, but the AI is expanding a third time and a fourth time here, so this could quickly start to run into a situation where, you know, the AI just with its macro is able to have that medics just check like, hey, you guys all still there? Okay, they are still there. The medics making the Marines last a little bit longer against this setup here, but really still getting wiped out, and we do have siege mode, but the tanks just remaining unsieged at this time. And so we have now the gases set up at the natural here. We are getting, we're supply blocked for a brief moment there. Just something that's very easy to have happen. Happens to me a fair bit as a player, getting supply blocked. If you're not regularly plopping down those supply depots. And the medic being the scout again, getting wiped off of the map. We do have some more reinforcements coming in. A pretty decently sized force here, and now we do have the siege mode being put in place here. But now we have ghosts under construction, or being trained here. We are getting cloak, so we might see some lockdown action pretty soon here. And we are just getting more and more bases here, more and more barracks being plopped down throughout the map. And now really, I think it's a question of, will the AI be able to just get enough to overwhelm this sort of fortified defensive position here with this bio army? We do have the ghosts coming in to engage, and I think they do less damage against the Marines. We have some medic and Marines from Snail as well, so going with like a bio-mech mix here. Interesting TVT to see happening here, and we are supply blocked again, as Snail is, so going ahead and having to throw down another supply depot. We've got 3 more expansions coming up for the AI. I wonder if we will see any nuclear silos. We do see a nuclear silo coming down, so nukes will be in play pretty soon here, which against a static defensive position here would be pretty powerful. So Snail really is going to need to make some sort of move or play here. We've even got the one nuke that doesn't have to travel that so far, but will take the same amount of time to get there no matter what. So really the AI at this point just taking over every available expansion on the map. And now we do have a lockdown coming in, but still just enough tanks to be able to clear this out. But will Snail push out, or will Snail continue to just turtle here? It's hard to say. We only have... We don't even have a comsat, which is a bit surprising, as we don't have any sort of mobile detection. We do have a battle cruiser out, though, for Snail. A lot of scans going off for, I believe, the AI, because I don't see any detection up. And we do have a nuke coming down here. And it's gonna land, and oh, the entire army of Snail basically falls. And now we've got the rush coming in here for the AI. Oh man, that was almost too beautiful to watch there. And now just the numbers coming in, having a little bit of trouble targeting these buildings, but yeah, I think at this point it's going to be over for Snail. So good game by the AI here. The human player here running into some issues with getting supply blocked and things like that. A couple of things I noticed too. The lack of a comsat was a bit surprising. You got the academy, but did not get the comsats, which is a little perhaps a bit surprising. And then also just very stationary, a little bit slower playing. But I mean, that's fine if that's the level of play that you're at. There's nothing wrong with that, and we can see how even sort of non-standard meta play like this AI was doing can be a challenge to play against sometimes. So a lot of fun games. And just really quick here, I want to sort of watch this nuke again here in slower motion, just maybe not quite that slow, maybe half speed, just as it comes down, and just all of that army just destroyed there. But I do want to thank everybody for tuning in. We had a lot of fun games today. Got to check out some random ranked games off of Snail. Given that we finally worked through the backlog of recommended games, we look forward to the future games that you all will recommend. Again, the link to the SSCAIT Discord is down below in the description, as well as the link to Snail if you want to try playing these AI. If you want to get nuked or anything like that, you're free to download it and play against these custom AIs, which is a lot of fun. So thanks everyone for tuning in, and we'll catch you next week. Until then, take care.